There's growing unease, even among conservatives, over Donald Trump's nominee to head the Department of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Just yesterday, an op-ed published in Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal urged Republican senators to step up and save Trump from his own Kennedy pick. Basically, it was a bad political deal, just get him out of it by dinging him. Now, there are a lot of reasons to oppose Kennedy's nomination. Maybe the most obvious is that for years he has been one of the most prominent anti-vaccine activists in the country, and his activism has left people sicker and worse off. When COVID-19 vaccines became available in 2021, Kennedy was a leading voice, spreading misinformation and urging people not to vaccinate, making ridiculous statements like that the coronavirus vaccine was the, quote, deadliest vaccine ever made. Multiple studies have found that hundreds of thousands of Americans could have lived had they been vaccinated against the virus. Could have lived, but didn't. It has been clear that Kennedy's confirmation to HHS would be dangerous to public health, wildly so. But I will admit, I learn something new every day. I hadn't realized just how bad it could get. Today, in new reporting from the New York Times, we learned that Kennedy is interested in giving the top legal job at HHS to this guy, Aaron Siri. Siri is an attorney who has done millions of dollars in legal work for anti-vaccine organizations. He has also, according to both Times and Politico, been helping Kennedy pick top federal health officials for the new administration. Like, that's the guy getting the resumes. Oh, and in 2022, he petitioned the government to revoke its approval of the polio vaccine. Yes, the polio vaccine. The vaccine that for decades has protected millions and has virtually eliminated in this country a virus that can cause paralysis and death. The outrage over the news has been both widespread and bipartisan. Republican Senator Mitch McConnell, a polio survivor, issued a statement tonight reading in part, the polio vaccine has saved millions of lives and held out the promise of eradicating a terrible disease. Efforts to undermine public confidence in proven cures are not just uninformed, they're dangerous. Anyone seeking the Senate's consent to serve in the incoming administration would do well to steer clear of even the appearance of association with such efforts. Joining me now is someone who has closely followed the anti-vaccine movement, senior reporter for NBC News, Brandy Zadrozny. It's great to have you here, and I'm so glad to have you here because when this news went, I was like, oh, I have not heard of this guy, and you were like, I have heard of this guy. In fact, I know him quite well. Who is Aaron Siri?
Aaron Siri, I like to think of him as the brains behind the anti-vaccine movement. Anti-vaccine activists were largely an ineffective group of folks, especially Robert F. Kennedy and his communications director, Del Bigtree, who runs the second largest anti-vax org called ICAN. They were just sort of like petitioning local governments. They were trying to get, states to do away with vaccine mandates for children. And they just wasn't working until they met Aaron Siri. And Aaron Siri is a lawyer. He has a New York law firm. And in 2015, he started dabbling in vaccine mandate for children cases. Mm-hmm. That got him linked up with Del Bigtree and with Robert F. Kennedy, and they started trying cases together. There was a case in Tennessee where a child was, they argued that the child had been affected by a vaccine and been caused to be autistic. The courts did not find that same thing. They disagreed. The court disagreed. But so from there, Aaron Siri became the law firm for Del Bigtree's organization. Del Bigtree paid him, I think, something like $13.8 million from 2017 to 2022. I don't know what he was paid last year. But he has raked in the cash, basically acting as part of a propaganda arm, filing crazy FOIA requests and then misrepresenting what the denial of those FOIA requests means for vaccines, filing lawsuits. Like, he was the man who overturned religious exemptions in Mississippi. He was the lawyer on that case, that sad case in Mississippi. He's all over. And then he was a huge part. I think he got paid something like $50,000 to represent Kennedy in his campaign.
One of the things that is striking here when you talk about this petition to revoke authorization is that the rhetoric they will use is we're pro-choice, anti-mandate, right? And here's the Times on this. Mr. Siri insists he does not want to take vaccines away from anyone who wants them. You want to get the vaccine, it's America, a free country, he told Arizona legislators last year after laying out his concerns about the vaccine for polio and other illnesses. He did not mention the petitions he has lodged on behalf of ICAN, the organization you just said, with the FDA, asking regulators to withdraw or suspend approval of vaccines not only for polio, but also for hepatitis B. Continuing, Mr. Siri is also representing ICAN and petitioning the FDA to pause distribution of 13 other vaccines. Combination products that cover tetanus, diphtheria, polio, and hepatitis. I mean, I mean, I think mandates are a good idea, and I think choice is overrated in this aspect. But that is a long way from even that. That's stop the government for, revoke.
It's all of them, Chris. It's all of the vaccines. There is not a vaccine that Kennedy thinks is safe or effective. These folks don't believe the polio vaccine actually stopped polio. They think it's true. They think it's a combination of sewage, better sewage, of refrigeration. Yes, absolutely. They are polio truthers. That is what they believe. Robert F. Kennedy has told me this. And so absolutely. They want to get rid of all of them, and not just get rid of all of them. They say, we don't want to get rid of any vaccines. We just want to test them. Well, let's talk about what their testing is.
Yeah, what is it? Because today, Kennedy comes out with a statement being like, oh, again, there's all this weird doublespeak.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it should be studied. That's what he said. I was like, I think we've got the studies. I think we've studied it pretty damn well. Do we have iron lungs in America? No, we don't. Okay.
This is the only thing that will do for Kennedy and the folks that he surrounds himself with. These double-blind, controlled studies, which means that he wants to get a big group of kids together and give half of them the vaccine and half of them not, but not tell anybody which is which, and then determine on a longitudinal basis. So follow these groups for 20 years, their whole life, and decide if there's any more positive outcomes for the people who've gotten the vaccine versus not the vaccine, vaxxed versus unvaxxed. The problem is quite obvious with that, right? Who do you withhold the vaccine from? That is completely unethical.
Right. The other thing is that we do randomized control trials and double-blind randomized control trials in the process of approving all the time. That is how we get them. That's how we know if they're safe and effective.
100%, 100%. And we can talk about the trials that happen along the way, and it's very complicated. And that's why, thankfully, we have scientists and doctors and public health officials who study these things very, very closely. And the problem is you have folks like Del Bigtree and Robert F. Kennedy, and through their lawyer, Aaron Siri, who come and dismantle that using the courts as a weapon.
But this is not, it's one thing if you got a guy filing things in court. This could be the general counsel at HHS. HHS oversees the Food and Drug Administration, if I'm not mistaken, and the National Institutes of Health, and the Centers on Disease Control. That guy is the chief lawyer and the brains overseeing the federal health infrastructure.
I wonder if he would let go of his payday that he certainly has right now to come work for the government. But having said that, I do wonder that. But it's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that there is going to be, they can all afford to lose. They got 4 votes they can lose, right, with the Senate majority. They're going to have some trouble. On Hegseth, they're going to have some trouble. On Tulsi Gabbard, they're going to have some trouble. And I think we'll see where this all goes. But I think most Americans, I don't know, I made a joke today. I think if you polarize the American electorate on the axis of pro and anti-polio, you end up with the bigger chunk in the anti-polio camp. But I don't know anymore, to be honest, what's going on.
The thing you said with COVID, I thought COVID would be the thing to do it with vaccines.
And it did the
all
opposite.
Those people died for no reason.
Yeah, and it did the opposite. Brandon Zadrozny, thank you very much.
Thanks.